Hello. Please welcome Mr. Fabian Marcaccio from New York. Okay. So Fabian, I thought before we come to this show, to the paintings of the show, I would like to go back in your painting history, and because this is a new step that you did with these raw paintings, and I would like to ask you about the previous stage of your work, which was, for example, shown here in Stuttgart in the Württembergischer Kunstverein, and later on in Cologne in the Kölnischer Kunstverein. And because this is a different type of work that you did that time, maybe you can explain a bit how you did this kind of work, which was 10 years ago, and a bit later. It was also, this kind of work was also shown in the Documenta 11 in 2002. Just to understand the step that you did now with these new paintings.
Well, thank you very much for bringing me here again to visit my own show. I have to say that I will think that the work immediately before this work is actually the type of work, the three-dimensional work that is actually shown in Duisburg, actually. So, but I will say that all my works are, related, and they have an evolution, let's say.
But the way to produce this painting is completely different than the new
yes.
paintings.
Yes.
So
yeah.
maybe you can explain a little bit the technique you did. This kind of work.
Yeah. This work, Paint and Story, and like you said, the Documenta, multiple site paint, and all these kind of, I call them environmental paintings, because they are actually pictorial spaces, let's say non-frame, but let's say contextualized by a site, let's say. It's a whole family of work that was trying to create a new stage for painting, taking it out of the typical frame, and not so much as to let's say, go against, let's say, easel painting, but actually to test if there is a possibility of time, space, material-oriented painting. Meaning, like, sometimes I nickname them as material, spatial movies. Like a type of pictoriality that you don't concentrate, but they allow you to, or call you to walk and passage through a site. I call them action painting for the beholder, because it's not a room or a painting, or even an architectonic painting in a room, but actually they go through landscapes, they go through like in the case in Stuttgart, we hang it as a sort of rotonda, like a panoramic, or in the Cologne Kunstverein, you went in and out of the museum. I call them too like urban paintings too, because in general we have this, reduction, abstract, figurative, whatever classification that is irrelevant today, in my point of view. But the important thing is like the real effect of implementation of painting in relation to other mediums. And these paintings were really trying to say, okay, painting is not going to be all over from within painting, owning its own ruin, like it happened in modernism, or even through the, let's say, the illusion of postmodernism, but it's going to be over by, banners in the street, but just oblivion. A lot of revivalist painting that we have right now suffers that. They are just exotic, personalized visions. And these paintings are trying to set up a new space, a more extroverted space for painting, a space in between, let's say, spaces.
But in comparison to your recent painting, what was obvious in this kind of environmental painting was that you used a lot of digital photographs integrated in this panoramic view.
Yes, yeah. Technically, these paintings are coming from my early on works that I used techniques of reproduction during the 90s, and then I start actually right in the beginning of digital large-size banners. I say I have to enter into this technique because this is going to take the face of our cities. My idea was to study as much as possible the ways of using softwares and digital composition and digital plotters to create this sort of analog digital situation. Why? Because I wanted to immediately be critical to the territorialization of the cities through this, like the Calvin Klein, you don't see the building, you see the banner kind of thing, and to deconstruct them from within through a composition, through an interesting subject, through a band, and through micro, macro, and through material and dematerialization. All things that the banners didn't do.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
I mean, it was also what you cannot see here in this reproduction. It was also combined with parts of silicone and other kind of paint that you combined with these digital prints. So you mix it up.
Yes, like I took it for granted that all the techniques of photography could actually photograph, let's say, and when photography became digitalized, anybody knows now, but this we are talking about the beginning of 2000 and late 90s, when this thing was important. Now we take it for granted. It was important to realize what was the step and how painting can capitalize in that gap, because we all know how photographers start using digital composing and all that, but large, big, on light boxes, wherever, any photographer is still dematerialized, object-oriented, and on a situal base. So they didn't challenge any of the actual given problems of painting. You could say that a big Gorky photograph is like a polo painting, pretty much. What they achieved was not a big level of realism, but actually the status of hegemonic artist. Okay? So to me, the interesting thing, the interesting battle on photography and the digital was on the streets, was on the banner, and that was my dialogue. Okay? The situation that photography could never, it could borrow a surface, let's say, but it could never own that surface. And painting, in that case, even in digital painting, that is somehow foreigneous or projectual to the object or to the support, the ground is more intimate, and the continuity of the pictorial is more continual than the photographical. So it was a sort of love-hate with photography, I would say.
So for this kind of work, you created this new term, painted. Painted. Can you explain it a bit?
Painted. I mean, I got tired of. I mean, my work is hard. It's hard to. It works on the gaps of hybrid or composites, because I think that more of the interesting things that happen in our culture today are the composite, the coefficients of complexity of things. They are not this or that, but they are composite. I mean, if you open, I don't know, break an IKEA piece of wood, it's not wood really. It's a composite that brings a totally philosophical relation to objects. So, to me, that kind of hybrid stage is a really important situation. I forgot the question.
The term paintant.
Right. Paintant, it literally goes into that because I got tired of using the notion, the kind of descriptive notion of painting. And I start thinking of paintil or paintant or a way of verbalizing it. So it feels that the activity, the bottom to top type of work, the redefinition of work could be more obvious. So paintant is like painting a mutant or actant. So it's a way of verbalizing it, to activate the painting as an activity.
What is interesting in the you can see it in this reproduction here that already at that time you have used a lot of this grid made out of ropes, but that time it was only digital. It was a digital image, and now we see here in your new paintings again the grid. I mean, here it has different sizes, different scales. Now you come back to say a real thing. So what was this? I mean, impetus to make this change?
Well, it's really not. I mean, I always say that I'm doing all the same thing all the time, but in different levels. Let's say, if you go to one of my early work, like this was actually shown in the Kunstmuseen when Udo Kittelmann was in Cologne, 92, 93. This painting is a kind of ghost of painting traveling through different grounds. So I was thinking, painting could let's say, there are different levels of painting. There is actually the actual painting, the real, the symbolic, and the imaginary spaces of painting. And many moments in the history of art actually favor one more than the other. And my idea was that from the get-go, if painting could actually survive, let's say, or be thriving in this complex painting after minimalism, after reduction, it had to macromalize itself, macromalize itself. So it had to reorganize its space. It had to work and see itself from inside, and have to see its own future. So it had to be suspended in the Lacanian real, imaginary, and symbolic category. So my work has been like sometimes being more real, sometimes being more symbolic, sometimes being more imaginary. Sometimes I say that my work is a kind of, it's not surrealist, it's a sort of, what is surrealist inside my work is actually obligatory surrealism. The hangover after the party. Like how media inject us to be in an unreal world, let's say. The opposite, the negative side of it, the misery of surrealism, let's say. So, I always try to challenge these kind of things. So, for instance, the ground was traveling in the ground, let's say the canvas. Then it became digital, so it became like a phantasm. Like painting can do anything with itself because it could be like a cancerous growth, let's say. But to what extent? Okay? And I try to actually imitate the cancerous growth of the state of media today, let's say. It could be for information or disinformation. So then with this work, I question again, and I put immediately, well, it's not an imaginary ground. It's literally a hyper-real ground. It's bigger than any painting that you ever saw in your life. It's like almost the nightmare of the real. It's too real. So that's the thing, like not taking for granted a notion of where you are stepping on, you know, like question that, question the zeitgeist or the you know the Heideggerian notion, the design, okay? Challenge the way you are right there, you know.
So that's interesting to me. I mean, because you say coming to this kind of raw paintings, which the space on the grid is at the same time real, but also hyper-real, because it's more, it's bigger than any other support of any other painting. So it's a kind of blow up of a regular ground.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
And it's like a convention, like almost like can you really make a painting? I mean, that's the question. Like almost like, hey, can you really make a painting? But let's have it so you pass the finger and you literally climb the painting. You literally can climb it like a rock, like a, you know, like a mountain. You know, impasto is there, but you can see it through. It's physical but representational. It has content, but you can almost not even see it because you have to be kind of super far away to see it. All those situations are pretty much in this concept of questioning in the so-called post-digital, because we are not in a post-digital, we are in a full digital space right now. But I could see already the dangers of that space. So I'm switching from the embracing or sabotaging the digital into what's going on if you catch the painting through the actual real. You know, you make it as real as possible. That's the.
I mean, a result that comes from this decision to make this grid so big, bigger as any other grid. So it's really your invention, I would say. The result, one result is that you can hardly see a certain image from a normal distance. You can see it as far as more as you go away from the painting. So yeah, from a distance you can see this kind of images that you are using.
Yeah.
Or you maybe in reproduction, a small reproduction we had in our newspapers here.
Yeah.
Suddenly people recognize, oh, that's a certain figure.
Yeah.
Can you tell about this? Was this result, you know, coming by chance, or how much did you plan it?
Well, and I like to say something about the technical model, because to me technique is a really important thing, because it's the way of redefining work instead of redefining, you know, like we are in the process of information, but the forces of work are in China or somewhere else. Okay, so we are like a conceptual culture by default, let's say, because we can hide the work. And I put the work in front of you, you know? And we are actually literally in that problem right now, because, you know, the factories are getting crazy, or they want to show themselves that they exist, actually. This kind of, you know, like, how do they call it, slave work culture. All hidden by the clean information highways, but with this really dirty side, let's say, this contaminated, this like a black side, let's say. Going back to the technique, all my works, all my periods have been almost like, actually some people complain that they cannot even see where I'm going, because I work not through style or through notions like that. I work as text. I mean, my early work was a conglomerate somebody told me, if you don't want to be copied, do something difficult so people cannot copy it. And at least people copy it, but they take a while, because you have to study, you know. I mean, like many artists, if you notice, they are literally, like almost instantaneously studying. But, I mean, copy, sorry. So, you know, my digital, let's say, painting formula is highly original in the way, because it's not the normal, okay, blow up a digital paint. It's actually a one-to-one relation to the file. Believe it or not, those big banners have been scanned and produced in the computer one-to-one in the process. Why? Because to create a level of reality of the digital work in relation to the original thing. So it's not a blow up, okay? It's actually a one-to-one relation. And the structural canvas is an invention too. It's a photo, pictorial, sculptorial scheme, okay? And then this, I don't know, maybe, I mean, people weave paintings before, I think, in a smaller, probably my invention is more like the exaggeration, and the find that I find a painting that is flexible enough as a medium, that is silicone, to actually bridge the gaps. Because any big painting with big gaps, a net, let's say painting, could not do, it will break the painting. So technically, it's quite savvy in that way.
Yeah, but in comparison, I mean, when you use this kind of grid in your paintings, for example, you put all kinds of images from the internet inside these gaps between between the rows.
Yes.
But here it's you cannot do this because it's more this physical.
You want to see it in the future. You want to see it in the future. They're going to be, because this, I mean, I'm really interested about the inventiveness of a set of strategies, let's say, and how to challenge those. And these paintings, for instance, when I came to visit it again, and I'm doing a group of work that's going to maybe double the size, and I would like to show in the USA this group of work. I think I didn't have anybody who had a stomach to show them yet, but it could eventually happen. And they're going to be cell paintings that actually work more with the back, with the hidden, side of the painting. And in this painting, you see a lot of that, but they are kind of micro cells, like you saw them in the digital versions. So it's an evolutive type of test-like work. It's not a style that I want to configure. I want them to be like a tabula rasa of this, I would say, intimacy with painting. Because I'm not interested about being that they are big or big, but the fact that you can actually almost see that you are entering in the organs of the painting. So you are almost like when you see the doctors operating, and you are there, you can be there, and the tactility is really important too, because it's not a natural tactility, it's actually a synthetic, a kind of post-human type of materiality.
But I think it's also a good challenge for you, because I mean, this kind of abstraction, which works a long time as you stand in front of the painting, and only when you go further away, you see the image. I think this kind of abstraction is related to your work all the time. I mean, since your very early works, which was only abstraction, and I think for me it's an interesting way to have abstraction and figurative painting at the same time.
Yes.
Just because of different distances.
Yes, and to me it's really important because from my earlier work I considered animated type of abstraction, meaning I think I was trying to make abstracts, supposed to be a pseudo-abstract works, do figurative, animated things. And I'm doing the opposite now. I'm trying, from figurative work, I'm trying to get to an abstract space. Because most of this combustion between abstraction and figuration has been highly worked out by people like, I don't know, in Germany, Simon Polke, Gerhard Richter, in America, Warhol. I mean, it's just like this thing about abstraction and figuration, or figurant, or iconography, or presentation, representation, is not a problem anymore. But how these things accommodate, and how the legacies, a certain legacy of objectivity relate to the abstract era, to the situation of the taboo of like something could be postmodernly neo-representational, is still a problem. It's still a problem because it's a political problem. It's like, what is democracy? What is autarky? What is direct democracy? All those notions, we think about them, but there are certain inertias in the society that push and pull. Right now, for instance, we are living in an interesting global democracy that a lot of people are confronting to their own specific problems, and we are coming from a more Cold War, frozen land of type of democracy, the end of the Soviet bloc. So all those kind of negotiation on political models are acting at the same time, growing at the same time of art models moving around and growing as we speak. So that to me is quite interesting, because as we know, we say like, can we represent? In which way we can represent? In my point of view, these paintings are one of the, I don't want to be pretentious because they're pretty miserable, but they're one of the only possible ways for me to think about representation as micro, macro, fragmented, blow, exaggerated, with such a level that you have to go through the materiality to see the representation. You almost have to register, to extract, to work on the representation. You don't have it as a given, like classic painting or any kind of figurative painting. So in that sense, what you say about the distance of seeing it is paramount, because you are seeing reality of the world, real air, real matter, antimatter, and is asking you to put together a quite, grave work, like for instance the scene of a massacre in Fallujah. I mean, a power struggle, the rhetoric of power, so it asks you a lot to go through that materiality, and that to me is really important.
I want to come to another point. When you look at this work from 1997, it's kind of tent painting. You call it tent painting. It's a nickname. You could see that the way you installed it. You can see here. It's done by kind of climbing ropes, and now again you're using climbing ropes in a different way. So there is also this kind of relationship to all your works. But what interested me, how did it come that you are using climbing ropes now in combination with these manila ropes?
Well, you see here, you